Well, good morning, everyone. This is the weekly meditation of the School of Christian Mysticism. And for those of you that have just joined us or who are joining on the recording, we've just been enjoying morning prayer. And we have been using 2 readings in morning prayer. And usually in these meditations, we use the readings and the content thereof, or the inspiration thereof, as a springboard for the meditation. So I'm just going to give you a reference for those readings. The first reading, the Old Testament reading, is taken from the book of Wisdom, and that's chapter 5, verses 1 to 16. And the New Testament reading is taken from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 11, verses 8 to 16. And we meet today on March the 1st, which, as we've just been hearing in morning prayer, is St. David's Day. And although the focus of this meditation will be on the theme of faith, I'd like to invoke the presence of David to be with us today. His father was given 3 gifts. 30 years before he was born, he was promised David as a son, so the legend goes, and he was given honey and salmon and a stag. And although there were various ideas about the meanings of those, I like to think of them as invoking David's sweetness and his wisdom and his strength. So let us attune just for a moment to the spirit of Saint David. And very much we, in the School of Christian Mysticism, give thanks for the tradition which we inherit, that of the Celtic Christians who practice very close to nature before the coming of the Roman Church. And I believe that David was just got in, as it were, before the coming of the Roman Church, when a lot changed. A lot was regulated in a way which it wasn't to start with. So let us give thanks for that tradition which lives in this school, of being attuned to the invisible and the eternal in each other and in nature and in ourselves. Well, the image that I want to start the theme of faith with is one taken from the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And I don't know who has seen The Last Crusade, but you don't have to imagine this. Indiana Jones has, just like us, to find the Grail, which contains drops of the blood of Christ, which gives life. And as usual, there's a lot of action and competition. It's in the time of just before the Second World War, and the archetypal baddies are also after the Grail, the Nazis. And his father is with them. And his father gets injured and is close to death. And they have come to the place in the rocks in Jordan, I think it is, in the film, where inside there is the Grail. And Indy is following some instructions in a little notebook that his father has given him, which are all very cryptic. And this is often the case with the spiritual life, in my experience. And they come to an entrance to which Indy goes through, and there's a void. There's a huge chasm in front of him. And on the other side of the chasm, there is another doorway. But the chasm is very wide and extremely deep. And this is all in rock. And it can't be jumped or traversed. And there is no bridge. And there is a great deal of urgency. Indy's father is dying. And a friend says, "Hurry up, he's dying." And the father is muttering to himself, "Just believe, Indy, just believe." And suddenly, Indiana Jones gets it. It is a leap of faith that is required. And so this man of action has suddenly to surrender what he knows, his usual way of doing things. And he steps out into the void. And as he does so, a bridge manifests itself under his feet, and he can walk across. And of course, he gets the Grail, and his father survives, etc., etc. So it is a leap of faith. So the theme this morning is faith. And I'd like to read some words about faith from Richard Rohr, the Franciscan, whom many of us follow his writings. Good powerlessness, because there is also a bad powerlessness, allows you to fall into the hands of the living God. You stop holding yourself up so you can be held. There, wonderfully, you are not in control, and only God needs to be right. And that is always the very special space of any positive powerlessness and vulnerability, but it is admittedly rare. Faith can only happen in this very special threshold space. You don't really do faith. It happens to you when you give up control and all the steering of your ship. Frankly, we often do it when we have no other choice. Faith hardly ever happens when we rush to judgment or seek too quick resolution of anything. Thus, you see why faith will invariably be a minority and suspect position. And you also see why the saints always said that faith is a gift. You fall into it more than ever fully choosing it. And only then do you know how grace, love, and God can sustain you and strengthen you at very deep levels. So let us reflect for a moment about these words, this good powerlessness, this falling into the hands of the living God. So as we sit here, let us deepen now into our practice. Becoming conscious of our breath, and finding that as we do so, our breath lengthens and deepens, taking us into a deeper state. In the Gospel of Philip, Jesus teaches that faith is about receiving. Faith is not to be had. We cannot get it. We cannot do it. We have to receive it. Faith is perhaps not of the mind. It is not belief. Faith is of the heart, of the opening of the heart, of the surrender of the heart. So let us concentrate our breathing on the heart, feeling the heart soften and expand. We are walking towards Lent and the great mystery of the death and resurrection of the Christ. And we need faith, for this is a journey which we make within, a mystical journey, not just made once and for all by a historical Jesus, but our journey. The writer to of the letter to the Hebrews was, as I understand it, trying to help these practicing Jews who accepted Jesus as their Messiah to make the transition from the visible temple and its importance in their lives to the interior temple, the Christ within, and flags up the importance of faith, having confidence in the invisible, in what you cannot see. St. John of the Cross, the great Christian mystic, uses the metaphor of the dark night. But he says that right in the center of the dark night, there is the fountain of life. And I'd like to read to you a poem called The Fountain. How well I know that flowing spring in black of night. The eternal fountain is unseen. How well I know where she has been in black of night. I do not know her origin, none, yet in her all things begin in black of night. I know that nothing is so fair, and earth and firmament drink there in black of night. I know that none can wade inside to find her bright, bottomless tide in black of night. Her shining never has a blur. I know that all light comes from her. I know her streams converge and swell and nourish people, skies, and even hell. The stream whose birth is in this source, I know, has a gigantic force in black of night. The eternal fountain is unseen in living bread that gives us being in black of night. She calls on all mankind to start to drink her water, though in dark. O living fountain that I crave, In bread of life, I see her flame in black of night. So it is only in this powerlessness, in this darkness, in this letting go of our attachments and unknowing that we journey to the center of the labyrinth to find the fountain of life. So let us bring ourselves into our deepest place, into the place of our deepest unknowing. Our deepest uncertainty. And let's experience this as the black of night, as the darkness, this unknowing place. We may be aware of uncertainties or insecurities or senses of limitation that we have which come up for us as we open to the possibility of this. knowing that it is only in powerlessness that faith is to be found. And let us become aware of glimmering in this dark, deep place, a shine of water moving. A glimmer in the dark, the sound of it, perhaps the smell of it. And let us approach this water and find it to be a spring or a fountain of living water. And let's come into contact with that water. Perhaps we put our hands in it. Perhaps we bring it to our mouth. Maybe we decide to drink some of it. Let us feel the life in the water. Let us experience the water and this spring or fountain becoming right inside us, in the dark space of our surrender, of our humility, of our powerlessness. feel the spring or the fountain begin at the base of our spine and rise, giving life through our whole being, through our solar plexus, rising into our heart, rising up through our chest, through our throat, through our head and out of the crown of our head, a living fountain of life within the unknowing and dark unknowing of ourselves. Jetting upwards, and then at the peak of its upward ascent, it begins to fall. A glistening shower of lit water which pours over us, bringing healing and life. Washing down through us and over us, out into the world. A benediction for healing in the world. In Philip's Gospel, in faith we receive, in love we give. So breathing the fountain in from base to crown, trusting the living water in dark of night. And breathing in as it falls over us and out into the world. Breathing out as it falls over us and out into the world. Giving in love what we have been given. Through faith. So I'd like to end with a blessing. May the grace of this good powerlessness be with us as we journey through Lent toward the great mystery of Easter. May we be open to receive faith. May we be able to give love. And may we be able to rest in the great Creator Spirit's embrace. Amen.